I believe that Patel lied to us in the committee. He said that he couldn't share his grand jury testimony, and I'm quoting him here, because there's a court order on that case.
Sheldon Whitehouse didn't mince words. He accused FBI Director Kash Patel of misleading the Senate Judiciary Committee, not once, but twice. Whitehouse said Patel falsely claimed a court order prevented him from discussing his grand jury testimony, then later claimed he'd already released the transcript when, according to Whitehouse, no transcript had been made public. He demanded Congress get the answers immediately.
Thanks, Chairman. My comments today about FBI chiefs testifying honestly and not lying to Congress are particularly relevant in light of your opening statement. Let me start with the basic fact behind all of this, that the current FBI director pled the fifth in the matter where he ended up providing grand jury testimony. We've never had an FBI director come through this committee who had pled the fifth before. As you know, when you plead the fifth, to do it honestly, you have to have a good faith belief that your testimony would subject you to criminal liability, which meant if Patel was being honest, he had a good faith belief that his testimony would subject him to criminal liability. As that went forward, he ended up getting immunity from the government in order to testify. If this were a court, a civil court, a judge would allow an adverse inference to be drawn against the witness who had asserted the fifth. In Patel's proceedings, we were never even allowed to get to the bottom of the grand jury testimony. Why he pled the fifth, what he said, all of that was papered over as he went through this committee to confirmation. So for obvious reasons, I pursued that question, just as you would, Chairman, if the shoe were on the other foot. And I believe that Patel lied to us in the committee. He said that he couldn't share his grand jury testimony, and I'm quoting him here, because there's a court order on that case, he said. He said again, I can't go into court orders granted by the DC District Chief Judge. And then when I pressed him further, he challenged me saying, you want me to violate a court order? He then went on to say to Senator Booker that his grand jury testimony has been sealed by the Department of Justice, and I'm not allowed to discuss it here. Well, as it turns out, none of that was true. All of that was false. And we know that because the DC District Chief Judge, who he mentioned in his false statement to this committee, said, and I'm quoting the judge, July 2025, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E allows witnesses like Patel to divulge the contents of their testimony, meaning that nothing was preventing him from doing so before the committee, unquote. So it sure looks like he lied about that. So in his recent testimony, I asked him again. And now he offered the committee a new and different lie, which is that he had released the transcript already. He said, first of all, I'd love my grand jury testimony to be released. I want it made public. And then he said, I wanted the transcript released, and I will get it to you, sir, to me. I wanted the transcript released, and I will get you the transcript. He said to me, we can confirm that pursuant to my action, that grand jury testimony has been released, the transcript. He said the transcript has been released publicly. He told Senator Booker, well, I don't have the grand jury transcript. That's why I released it. So, as it turns out, no transcript was released. He was making up that lie, probably to get away from having to answer our questions. But now we have an FBI director who first lied in committee about a non-existent court order and had that lie exploded by the actual judge who he claimed had him under court order, and then lied in committee about having released a transcript that we all know has not been released. I think on that state of facts, we're entitled to get the transcript that he says he wants us to have, that he says he released publicly, and that the judge has confirmed is not under any court order of protection. So, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to working with you. I know you have a strong interest in FBI chiefs testifying honestly in this committee and not lying to Congress to try to get to the bottom of what has gone on, because those seem like two pretty flagrant and obviously provable lies. And we'll follow up for further assistance to get to the bottom of this. But I don't think it's asking too much to ask the committee's support, to ask Director Patel to do what he says he has already done, which is to release the grand jury transcript of his testimony and provide it to us. Thank you.
One of the most explosive moments of the hearing came when Senator Sheldon Whitehouse accused FBI Director Kash Patel of misleading the Senate Judiciary Committee about his grand jury testimony. Whitehouse opened by reminding the committee that Patel is the first FBI director to have previously invoked the Fifth Amendment before later receiving immunity to testify before a grand jury. He argued that this unusual history made Patel's testimony especially important and warranted close scrutiny from Congress. According to Whitehouse, lawmakers were never given the opportunity during Patel's confirmation process to fully understand why he initially invoked the Fifth Amendment or what he ultimately told the grand jury. He argued that those questions were effectively set aside during the confirmation process, leaving important issues unresolved. Whitehouse then focused on what he described as Patel's first false statement to the committee. During an earlier hearing, Patel repeatedly claimed he could not discuss his grand jury testimony because a court order prohibited him from doing so. Whitehouse quoted Patel saying that a judge had sealed the testimony and challenged senators by asking whether they wanted him to violate a court order. But Whitehouse argued that explanation collapsed after the Chief Judge of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia publicly clarified that federal rules allow grand jury witnesses to disclose their own testimony. According to Whitehouse, the judge's statement meant there had never been a court order preventing Patel from answering the committee's questions. Whitehouse then turned to what he described as a second contradiction. At a more recent hearing, Patel no longer argued that a court order prevented disclosure. Instead, Whitehouse said Patel told senators that he had already requested the release of his grand jury transcript and that it had been made public. Whitehouse quoted Patel repeatedly stating that the transcript had been released and promising to provide it to the committee. According to Whitehouse, however, no such public transcript exists. That led Whitehouse to accuse Patel of replacing one explanation with another rather than providing a straightforward answer. He argued that if Patel truly wanted the transcript released, and if no court order prohibited its disclosure, then there was no reason Congress should not receive the document. Whitehouse urged the committee to formally request the transcript, arguing that lawmakers have a responsibility to determine whether the FBI director testified truthfully before Congress. He said the issue extends beyond partisan politics because the credibility of the nation's top law enforcement official depends on honesty under oath. Closing his remarks, Whitehouse expressed hope that the committee chairman would support efforts to obtain the transcript. He argued that Congress should simply ask Patel to do what Patel himself claimed he had already done, release the grand jury testimony so senators and the public can evaluate the facts for themselves. Whether the committee ultimately obtains the transcript remains to be seen, but Whitehouse's accusations added another layer of controversy to ongoing questions surrounding Patel's confirmation and his testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee.